I want to spend the next hour together with you to help you better understand how you need to perform in the consulting interviews.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm very happy to see all of you here today at our webinar, because today we're going to know how to get an offer from MBB and pass the profitability case with Andre Homulenko and Gaurav Bhosle. They're our coaches. And also, please very welcome our candidate, Rishin. And also, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Alessia Kim. I'm a client manager from Consulting Masters. And today I'm going to moderate this webinar. So let me tell you the agenda for our today's webinar. It will last just 60 minutes. And first of all, we will give you information about MBB. Then we will do interactive case part. After that, we will share our value proposition. And in the end of the webinar, we're going to do interactive Q&A sessions. And now let me tell you about our coaches, right? So let me turn on the video and listen attentively.
Consulting Masters presents. Let us find out more about our experts. Andre Homulenko. Andre is the CEO of the company with more than 7 years of experience in consulting. He is an ex-senior manager and has interviewed more than 115 candidates for different positions in Roland Berger in Munich, Kiev, and Dubai. Moreover, he made a fast-track career from a consultant to acting project manager in just 17 months. Andre has been coaching from 2014 to help mentees receive offers from the top consulting firms. Our next expert is Gaurav Bhosle. Gaurav is an ex-McKinsey and a full-time career coach since 2013. 500+ clients coached by Gaurav already work in top consulting firms, and more than 200 clients are currently working at MBB. He has 6 years of strategy consulting experience in Europe, MENA, and Asia, working in 15+ industries and 20+ countries. Gaurav grew from an entry level to senior manager in 6 years. He is an ICF certified career transition coach and an interpreter with 2 successful startups and owns a recruiting firm. And now let us greet our experts.
So our coaches are not just ex-consultants and our experts. They were part of the recruiting team, so they know the whole process of interview from the inside. So with their help, you will definitely learn and know how to get this dream job from the consulting company. So now let me introduce Andre Homulenko and pass the word to him. Hello, Andre.
Hi, Alessia. Greetings to you. Good evening, good afternoon, or even good morning, depending on where you are. Greetings to Europe, North America, Middle East, or Southeastern Asia. I'm really very happy to see you, so many coming. I also see that so many people from the chat. For you, this is the first webinar. So I want to encourage you to be very active, because I want to spend the next hour together with you to help you better understand how you need to perform in the consulting interviews and how do you need to crack different types of the cases. Specifically today, we are going to simulate a profitability case for you. Profitability case is one of the most common, which is given during the consulting interviews. Let's move now to the content. I am also extremely happy to announce to you that this month already 4 of our mentees have started working in consulting. 1 in London at Accenture Strategy, 1 at BCG Platinum in Helsinki, 1 in the Middle East, and also 1 in India. And last week, another mentee of us have also received an offer and is going to start very soon, either in Dubai or in Riyadh office, one of the leading consulting firms. We will also announce it very quickly. I just actually want our customers to speak for themselves. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, Edward has actually seen one of our webinars in August. So in August last year, he was on your seat and he decided to reach out. And I just want to congratulate him, because we helped him to receive the job offer, an internship with RB Dubai. It's a real story, and he started his internship, I think in October or November this year. I just had a call with him at the beginning of this week, and he was very, very happy because just after 3 weeks of his internship, Roland Berger offered him a full-time position after he will be ending his studies. So he's going to join RB in Dubai or in London later on. And if you also want to become a part of our VIP family, feel free to reach out to have a conversation with Alessa Kim and be like Edward, and we would be more than happy to help you. In the next half an hour, we will be talking with you specifically about the interview process at MBB. I also want to highlight from my personal experience as a former member of the recruiting team, what are the top mistakes which you need to avoid during the interview in order not to be rejected and actually move on to the next phase. And then, consequently, you are here, of course, to see how does the real profitability case at one of the MBB companies could look like. And at the end of the webinar, I also want to give you tips and tricks and answer all your questions to help you to make it to the bar. Maybe just some of the theory. Some of you I have seen from the chat have just started with their preparation. And I want to explain you what is the process and the overall mechanics of the case interview part. So imagine I am an interviewer and you are the candidate. First of all, I give you the prompt. Your first thing is to paraphrase this prompt in your own words. Feel free to also take some notes because this is also important information for you. And later in the webinar, you will see how our candidate Rishin will be doing this together with our expert Gaurav. So your first objective is to paraphrase what I as an interviewer have told you, in order to make sure that you have really understood it. Second step is one of the most important ones, actually. Before even moving to structure, make sure that you totally understand the prompt and the case objectives. You can do this by asking 2, 3, maximum 4 clarifying questions. I can really recommend you, especially if it's a new industry for you and you are not familiar with that, to ask one of the first questions to be like, what is the business model of the company? Can you please tell me more about how does our client earns money? That's a really good starting point for the conversation. Also, you can ask more questions in order to clarify the end objectives of the case, maybe specific KPIs or matrices. You can also ask something in more detail about the services or the products of the company. And then depending on the case type, it could be also some more information either about the market, about the customers, or whatever is the topic of the case. Then you move on to the third step. So after you ask clarifying questions, just ask the interviewer to give you a moment of time to structure your thoughts. And in that time, think holistically about the problem and build your approach, which typically consists of 2, 3, or more buckets. The structure should be messy. Messy means in consulting language, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, which basically means that all your components should extend each other and build one thing. So your structure should be comprehensive to solve the objectives of the case. And then outline your structure, explain it to the interviewer, and show that you are really leading the case. So say that, for example, I want to start with a profitability analysis, unless you prefer me to start somewhere else. And then request the data which you need in order to do the first bucket analysis. Then make your assumptions and validate them with an interviewer, do the calculations and validate the outcome, and then make your final recommendations. Don't forget to do the intermediate summaries as you go through the case, and make sure that the interviewer can follow you at every stage of the interview. I want to highlight the 5 most common mistakes which I have observed as an interviewer when I was recruiting candidates for different offices of Roland Berger myself, in DACH region, in Eastern Europe, as well as in the Middle East. Unfortunately, I would say 9 out of 10 candidates are going to do at least one of these mistakes. Most commonly, people are not prepared to the personal feed part of the interview. So for example, last week, we used to have a personal feed part of the interview webinar simulation. Many people underestimate it completely. So they are not ready for it and they can't cope with their stress or with their composure. That's why they are already stressed and coming not in the best shape to the second part of the interview, which is a case simulation. Second, very most common mistake is that they don't follow the process or the structure of the case of the solving. And so many of you are not asking clarifying questions and trying to directly jump to outlining the structure. And this is completely wrong because you will not understand what is the initial situation and what are the specific case objectives, which will not help you to solve it. Actually, then it all results in your structure being not exhausted, not good enough. And so many candidates are not driving the case. They don't actually know what to do. And that's why they all lose. That's why so many people are outscreened during the interview process, and 9 out of 10 people will get rejected. If you actually want to really perform, you need to take everything into account and do everything right and be really very well prepared. And this is also something where Gaurav, myself, and our entire team will be very happy to help you. Let's move on from the mistakes to basically what are the 5 key steps, what you need to do in order to get an offer from MBB. So first of all, you of course need to have a plan, like an application plan. Some of you have already applied, and this is very good. Others who didn't, you need to create a plan, and you also need to have good CV and cover letter in order to pass through the screening. Ideally, you are applying through referrals and through networking to help you out to secure the interview. And then you need to adequately prepare for both personal fit part and the case part of the interview equally well as to train your emotional resilience, because some of the interviews could be so tough. And then it's at the end of the day, it's all about consistency. It's about your ability to crack not just one interview, but to crack 2 interview rounds with 3 to 4 interviews each. So basically to crack all 6 to 8 interviews in order to make it to the offer. And this could be done just with the consistency in terms of your practicing. So I would say enough theory. Let's just welcome our candidate today, Rishin and Gaurav. I'll pass my words to Rishin and to Gaurav. Maybe you guys could also, especially you, Rishin, could introduce yourself.
Self-explanatory. It's in the screen. So I'm an ESA MBA from ESA is in Spain. From 2021 batch. I'm preparing for some consulting interviews that I'm expecting this month and the next.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are joining from. I hope all of you are doing good, especially in these tough times. And thanks, Andre, for making it. I think, guys, you might not know, but he's not feeling well. But despite of that, it's his commitment towards adding value every single Wednesday. And despite of not being well, he's there for us. So thanks a lot, Andre, for that. And somebody used the word hope is a very beautiful thing. Yeah? It needs to be kept alive, but it needs consistent effort to convert the hope into reality. And that is what consulting preparation is all about, right? Good. So I look forward to answer your questions at the end. I look forward to see you, a lot of you at least, in the Consulting Masters family, and happy to see you on the other side working for McKinsey, BCG, Bain, and all other consulting companies. Great. So Andre is saying even COVID cannot hold me back. Absolutely. That's the spirit. That's the spirit of a consultant. Good, Rishin. So are you ready for the case?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'll read it out for you, Rishin, though it's also in front of us, guys. Your client is Yacht Co., a US-based luxury motor yacht manufacturer. They started in 1958, long time back, and they have grown into one of the largest and most prestigious yacht brands in the country. However, they have seen a gradual decline in their profitability in the recent years. Their CEO has come to you to develop a turnaround strategy for the company to aim at improving profitability for the medium and long term. Okay. So, Rishin, that's the case for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gaurav, for this case. So let me understand a bit. What it says that our client is in motor-based yacht manufacturer. So what is it exactly? Like a normal yacht, right?
Yeah, it's a normal yacht, not the yacht with sails.
Okay, not the sails. And its market is completely in United States, right?
Not really. So they are based in the United States, but the market can be pretty much global. That's a good question, by the way.
Perfect. And now to understand a bit about the business model of this company, who does they sell to? Does it sell to some other B2B companies or like travel agents? How do they really make money?
No, in all these big guys, high net worth individuals are their clients.
So high net worth individuals, they buy the entire yacht from them, right? It's not a service that they provide. They provide this entire product as a yacht.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So now understanding the objective. So you said that they're thinking about a turnaround strategy for improving the profitability in the mid and the long term. So do we have any specific success criteria?
Yes, they have a criteria. So they are looking to actually recoup the profitability loss that they have had in the let's say last 1 year.
And is there a timeline to recoup it?
Let's say 5 years.
Okay. So in 5 years, they want to recoup whatever profitability, or in 5 years, they want to reach the same profitability as they were in the last year, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So just to understand, do we have an idea about where do we stand now and where do we need to go? Like what was the last year's profitability and what is now?
That's a pretty sensitive question at this point of time.
Okay, no worries. So what I will do is that, can I take a moment to structure out my thought about how I will address this problem?
Yes, please.
So Gaurav, what we are trying to find out here is how to improve the profitability. To address this, I have created two buckets. One is external and one is internal. In external, what I will try to look into is the market engine in terms of what is the trends, what are the who are the competitors, what is the average profit margin for them, if there are certain new players who are putting price pressures for us, and if something changed in the last 1 year, maybe pandemic. So, and then we move on to the internal. In the internal, I will look into buckets, the revenue and the cost. In revenue, I will look into the number of products that they sell and the average size of the products. We will discuss further if they have a product variety. Then we will have to look into individual product lines. In the cost, I will look into both the variable and the fixed cost. Some of the fixed costs that comes to my mind is like overhead of the factory, and the variable cost will be the cost of goods sold and the cost of variable labor. So unless you have a specific bucket that you want to focus on, what I want to start with is to start with the external to understand whether it is a general trend with the industry or if it is our problem in general.
Give me some data, just to accelerate the process. So our client has kept the market share, by the way, over the last few years. One. Second, the profitability is down for almost all the players. Only thing is our client profitability has gone down much higher or significantly than the competition.
Perfect. So that tells me two things. One, in general, the profitability of this market is going up. The market is not so attractive as it used to be. But more importantly, what it tells me that the profitability of our profitability is going down more than the competitors. That tells me there is a problem with the internal rather than the external as well. Let's move on to the internal side then. Now, when I move to the internal side, what I will dive first is into the revenue aspect. So do we have any information about what product lines do they have and the number of products that they sell?
Absolutely. So basically we have two products. One is selling the new yachts and second, not products per se, I would say service. So one is making or designing and selling the new yachts, and another is basically the renovation and repairs. I also want to quickly tell you the data around it. Last year, 2021, you have the numbers. Last year numbers are also there. And I imagine that this is the only data that we have. And can you get into this data and tell me what is it that you can infer?
Perfect. Let me have a look at this data. And can I take a moment? So let me first give you an insight about the new yacht sales, and then I will come to the repair and renovations. When I look at the new yacht sales over the last 2 years, what I see is that two good things. One is the sales, as in the volume, is increasing by 10%. It has increased, and the average price has also increased. What is concerning is that the cost has increased, and the cost has increased more than the sales has increased. That way, it tells me that there is a problem with the cost side of it for the new yachts, right? Let me look out here. In spite of the increase, the contribution margin. So contribution margin has decreased. So initially the contribution margin was 0.6 and now the contribution margin is 0.3 million. Now let's move to the other side, which is the renovations. Can I just take a moment for the renovation as well?
Sure, please.
On the renovation side, it's almost a similar story. The number of contracts has increased and the average contract value has also increased from 850 to 900. But we see that there is a significant increase in the cost side of the renovation as well. So it has increased from 710 to 740. What it tells me, it can be two factors. Either we are inefficient or the type of renovation that we have to do requires changing of some expensive components. So we can dive deep into that later. What I can do right now, in both the sides, what I see that the problem is on the cost side, right? So can I just find out, let me just take a moment. So the cost has increased. Do we have any more information about the breakdown of this average cost that we have so that I try to dive deeper and find out what's the cost?
I don't have that, but let me just push you in the next analysis. Rishin, good point that it looks to be a cost problem, and we have identified one over there. What has happened is because the steel prices have gone up due to overconsumption in the Middle East part and the Asia side, the steel prices have gone up. And that is what is hitting us. So we had some very specific marine kind of area consultants, and what they suggested us is that why don't you use fiberglass to make the hull of the yacht rather than using this using the steel. So that is one thing that we want you to really evaluate. We have some data points. Okay, I want you to think about the 5-year business case. Don't think about time value of the money. So discount rating and all is not required. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Evaluate me one or two options. One, steel or fiberglass. Steel price, we'll consider 1800 per ton. And for average yacht, the steel required is 30 tons. With fiberglass, of course, this is not our expertise. Right now, we are making all the hulls using steel. So there is a change cost, there is the equipment, employee training, etc. One-time cost of 4 million. And the entire fiberglass cost itself per boat is going to be $40,000. And you can assume, for the sake of simplicity, that for the next 5 years, we will get orders of 100 yachts per year.
Got it.
Okay. So take this data and very quickly, why don't you tell me how is the business case looking like for both the options?
Perfect. So let me consider a status quo, wherein we will consider steel first. So if I consider steel, my steel price per ton is $1,800 per ton. Will it be reasonable to assume that over the 5 years, the price will remain same because the price has been increasing?
Yeah. So I'm telling you, you consider that as the same price.
Okay. Got it. So 1,800 tons is the steel price, and the amount of steel that we require per yacht is 30 tons. So if I multiply it, this is 54,000. So it's $54,000. So $50,000. Now this is the cost per boat in terms of if I use the steel. Now this I can just now see that even with this, we are $14,000 per boat more than the fiberglass. But because we are thinking about doing the business case for 5 years, let's do it for 5 years about what will be the overall cost, right? This is my cost, let's say. And right now we are only considering the cost of this steel. And if I had to use for 100 yachts, so it's 5,400,000, so 5.4 million. That's my overall cost. So this gives me the cost side. Let me think. So in order to do a business case, I will also need to think about the revenue, though in both of the cases, the revenues will remain the same, but just to make the...
You just leave that aside at this point of time. Let's just compare costs.
Okay. So the cost over the 5 years is 5.4 million for only steel. Perfect. Now let's do the...
Wait. How come 5.4?
So it's 1,800 tons into 30. So that's 18 threes of 54.
54,000 per boat. That is okay.
5,400,000 then over all the boats in 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's 5.4 million, right?
No, it's 54,000 into 100 boats, right?
Yes, 54 into 100 is 5,400 into 1,000.
But it's for 5 years. No, 5 years it will be. You need to multiply it by 5, right?
Oh, so it is 100 yachts per year. I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
So if it's 100 yachts per year, so every year this is 5.4 million. This is per year. And then I have to multiply it to 5 years. That will be 25 plus 2, 27 million. So $27 million is basically my cost side. Now let's go to the fiberglass side. In fiberglass, the equipment and the training. So there is a one-time investment of 4 million. My cost per boat is 40K. So basically, if I do the 40K and I multiply by 100, so that's 4 million. This is per year and into 5 years. So that's 20 million. $20 million is supposed to be my revenue, but from that, I will have to invest, not the revenue. So 20 million is the cost. And then I will add the initial investment of 4 million. That makes it $24 million because we are not considering a time value of money. So for each of the scenarios, if we look into it, for the next 5 years, steel will cost me $27 million to sell 100 per year, a number of yachts. Fiberglass will cost me $24 million. So just looking at this number, it seems that fiberglass seems to be a reasonable alternative to explore into. But then there are certain risks that we have to consider that we do not have the expertise for fiberglass, or if there are any other alternatives that we are missing out.
Okay, great. I like that part. Yeah. So there's going to be some non-financial aspects we need to evaluate, but I think we are running out of time. So let's stop here and give it to Andre.
Perfect.
And we can do that debrief later on. Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Appreciate it. My congratulations, actually. It was a very good performance. And I also see how you're boosting your confidence from the webinar to the webinar. And what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? How was the case for you? Can you maybe write it down into the comments or give us also a very small debriefing? Gaurav, how would you assess that performance and what have you seen?
So much better, Rishin, than the probably previous occasions, but there is still room to be improved. I think there have been multiple mistakes that I've done, probably 5 to 6. This is probably, if it is like a McKinsey, BCG kind of an interview where the evaluation is going to be really, really strict, then probably you would not make it. But for sure, I think room for improvement. Why am I saying so? is, first of all, let's start up from up. Clarification question. You asked a very sensitive data questions early on, which made me uncomfortable. A very quick red flag of client unfriendly communication should have been avoided. Structure came out pretty good, I would say. External and internal. Under external, you explained the level 2 pretty good, 2 work stream, revenue, cost, and that. But under external, the way you explained it, I didn't understand whether you had 5 analysis, 4 analysis. You explained it quite shabbily. So that needs to be improved for sure. Another thing is even clarification itself. Probably you should have for the revenue streams of the company rather than keeping that questions after the structure. So that is one input. 100 yards per year, last confusion that we had, I think could have been avoided. I mean, given that 100 and 110 were the number per year, 100 yards for 5 years is not a very good given a guess. This should have been avoided. Lastly, you came to the conclusion that we will basically 3 million extra to go for fiberglass per year, and you said that this is a reasonable improvement. But I was hoping that you would say more, because actually speaking, you calculated the contribution margin, which was basically falling down by $300,000, and they are selling 100. So just imagine how much they are basically lost in terms of profit. Against that, probably 3 million is not that great recovery. For 5 years. So this is not enough. They need to do a lot more. This is probably just peanuts. There needs to be a lot more in cost-cutting initiatives if cost-cutting is the way to go. But of course, a lot of good things as well. Good structure choice overall, very comprehensive, good inferences on both the data sets. Very nice. You led the case most of the time. I really loved it. Not only you stopped at the conclusion, you spoke about the risk and non-financial aspects, so which also gave me a comfort that you look things very broad and you have it covered. So so overall high level, you gave me a very good comfort. But these small things, needs to be tackled. Okay.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, does Rishin deserve an applause from you? Would you like to speak something out and cheer him up for all the stress that he needed to go through over the past 15 minutes for you? Seems like no one is willing to give you the compliment today, Rishin. I would suggest let's move on. I also want to encourage you, please feel free to start writing your questions into the chat. We will be getting back to that shortly after I present you a couple of content. Over the last 40 minutes, you've actually learned quite a lot about the peculiarities of MBB case interview. And this is a pretty typical case which could have been by BCG, by Roland, Berger, by Strategy, and by all major consulting firms. McKinsey have a little bit different cases, also profitability cases, but they are more interview-led, which we can handle in one of our webinars in the future. You have seen how to successfully solve the profitability case. You also know what are the most common mistakes, and you now even know how to get an offer from the MBB and how the real case looks like in the real life. Of course, as for now, you can either continue to on your own, or you can reach out to us and get for help. So if your career is a great asset for you, and if you really want to have the confidence, so just take the first step already today and book the first meeting with Olesa through the Calendly link at the time which suits best for you. It's absolutely worth it, because together with our help, you will be guaranteed a successful outcome, and you can start a career in consulting that you have been always dreaming about. So just click the link which is now appeared into the chat. And I also want to, maybe some of you still might be having some doubts whether it makes sense for you to go for it or not. And I really have a very good news for you here, because since August last year, most consulting firms worldwide, whether it's North America, in Europe, in the Middle East, or in Asia, they have started to actively recruit so many candidates right now. That's why so many of you are having upcoming interviews. However, you need to bear in mind that out of all the applicants who applied, only 1%, or even roughly about 1%, will actually get an offer. So if you want to become that 1%, just then make one step right now. And I also want to share with you one more story of one of our mentees, Ahmad, who is telling about his concerns that he used to have before our collaboration, and how collaboration with Consulting Masters obviously helped him to become who he is. Whenever I see this video, I'm actually really truly inspired in order to be able to help people to find excellent opportunities in consulting. And now I would suggest let's move on to the Q&A session. Do you have any questions to us?
Thank you, Andre. And guys, as Andre said, I don't buy. Please book a call with me. And thank you to be so active in the chat. And also we have a lot of questions from you. So thank you for them. And let's start answering them. So first one from Flora. I feel like the level of confidence of the candidates matters a lot. Is that true according to your experience?
I will pick it up. So Flora, yes, it's absolutely correct. That's why I emphasized to you at the beginning that one of the 5 steps what you need to do is to boost your confidence and boost your emotional resilience in challenging situations, because you will be facing different personality types. If in consulting interviews, there are actually 3 typical types of the interviewer. One is a very friendly and engaging person who would like to be like a buddy. The second one is a phlegmatic who is very focused on data and numbers. It's pretty hard to handle it. And most of the partners, red type people who are very rigorous in their decisions and who are only driven by their impact and by the decisions to make. So they are typical cholericers. And that's why you need to be ready to handle each type of the interviewer, and you need to show consistently high performance. So this is really what it takes to. That's why we in our programs focusing quite a lot, especially on the personal mentorship, to help you really become very confident, especially before your interview date. So yeah, I cannot stress it too much. Confidence is really very important. And that's why developing this confidence, developing emotional resilience plays a special role in all our coaching products.
Thank you, Andre, for your answer. And another question from Flora. Does the level of expectations get higher with seniority, internship, with associate, with consultant?
I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. If you're applying for internship versus full-time, if you're applying for analyst position versus associate, as the seniority of the insertion point in the pyramid increases, the expectation increases. You need to be a little bit more polished. Probably there are hundreds of differences, but predominantly that maturity of your experience needs to be reflecting your performance, actionability of your structure, and the overall kind of confidence, the little bit of addition of that business sense. Yeah, all these things start by kind of getting added when I'm interviewing somebody who will be joining as an associate versus analyst.
Thank you, Gaurav. And let's move on to another question from Precious Koro. Do you advise to go for it now if you did not secure an internship, or wait closer to when full-time application start later in the year?
I would generally say that now is the best period. I cannot, of course, predict the future, but I see that at least at that particular moment, so in autumn last year and now in January and February or in spring, I am expecting most of the consulting firms to really heavily picking up their recruiting efforts. So now the chances are the best, I would say, since 2019. So since before COVID years, the economy in consulting has completely recovered, and they are hungry looking for all the candidates, absorbing them from the market. So if I were you, I wouldn't wait. I would actually act immediately as soon as possible.
Thank you. Another question from Yamin Wei. How would you analyze case questions which do not fit any class frameworks? Like, what if the interviewer gives a case like, how can our client solve global warming or something?
There's no case where there's no structure. Yes, there are atypical cases, and probably what you're talking about is a good example of that. However, the structure can still be created in terms of, to ensure that we divide this problem into 2-3 particular areas. For example, how our client can solve a global warming problem, depending on who your client is. If I assume that, let's say your client is United Nations, now that you are coaching, and yes, McKinsey, BCG guys do coach United Nations as well. So if they are consulting United Nations, then probably we can talk about various initiatives in terms of educational initiatives. Probably you're talking about funding the country governments, etc. So basically the root of intervention can itself be a structure. Or we can go a little bit deeper, understand what's the success criteria, global warming improvement, exactly what are we trying to actually improve on. Once we know that, we can make the structure even more specific to that problem. There doesn't exist a problem which cannot be solved using structured problem solving. If you want to buy 2 kg potatoes and thinking about whether to buy or not, even I can structure that. Yeah, if you give me 2 minutes.
Thank you, Gaurav. Next question from Praneet IDV. What happens if we are unable to find a job within that specified period of 5-6 months?
Well, actually, most of our candidates who subscribe for the VIP result program, they are able to find the jobs within 2 to 4 months, depending on how much time they are willing to invest or they're ready to invest into the program preparation, because it's normally time needed to prepare your documents, to start the applications, and then the applications are coming. So 5 to 6 months are not really necessary for you to find the job. You can find it in consulting way faster. I mean, especially as I mentioned, now the recruiting season has picked up quite a lot, so you don't need to wait for half a year to find a job in consulting. And our preparation program is even more intensive. And in case anything happens, like unfortunately I cannot predict, but if COVID happens, like to me at the moment, then of course we can extend the contract, or if there are any other family issues that could be also related. We have a very well established customer support service which can help all our clients to tackle these kind of issues. We are more than happy to help you to receive your job offers even way faster than 5 to 6 months, 3 to 4 months on average, I would say.
Yeah, that's completely true. Thank you, Andre. Another question from Yamin Wei. How many cases do you recommend to practice before your interviews? What is a safe range to have?
I hate to answer this because the range is actually pretty wide. That's why I normally don't talk about number of cases. It's all about how you are doing those cases. But I think that's a science that will take time to discuss. If you're talking about the benchmarks, then what we typically say is the benchmark is 50. If you are even before you start applying, you should have probably done 50 cases, of course, with coaches, with peers, with our family members, in consulting masters, etc., together, so that you are well equipped to crack the cases. But again, I'm telling you, the range can be really, really wide. There can be people who have cracked some interviews with even 20 odd practice sessions, and there are people who probably wouldn't have done it even after 80 to 100. So it all depends on how you practice more than how many. I always say that whoever has said that practice makes man perfect is wrong. It's a wrong statement. Basically, it's all about perfect practice makes man perfect. Yeah. So the practice needs to be perfect in order for you to emerge victorious. So, and that's very important. However, if you need a number, the number is 50.
Great. Thank you, Gaurav. And another question from Yamin. In your interview and experience, what sort of candidates impressed you?
A very good question. Actually, the best candidates whom I really liked were the people who had that confidence, actually, who were so prepared, and those who were really relaxed during the interview and were totally enjoying it. Even if I threw to them difficult curveballs to tackle, they were always able to handle it with confidence and with smiling, and those who totally enjoyed the process of problem solving. So I would say if you can really showcase these qualities as well as a good sense of humor, then you'll definitely get it.
Yes, that's true. Another question from Flora. If you do not feel comfortable or prepared enough, is it acceptable to ask for the first round to be postponed of 3 weeks, 1 month?
Definitely, yes, Flora. It's possible, and it just happened, I think, today to one of our candidates. She got COVID and she is having her interview with one of the MBB firms just in the next 2 days. Of course, we advised her to postpone the interview due to the health-related issues, or in case you are feeling not prepared, then definitely do that. But please don't waste your time and get on your preparation. And also, if you need help, reach out to us. We are more than happy to assist you on that. I also think that there is one last question.
From Yamin Wei. So how do you select between two candidates for only one role? For example, in the final round, if both candidates have strong merits but are different, then how would you choose between the two? Is there some hidden evaluation criteria, or is it more like the partner's individual preferences? Thanks for answering all of my questions.
See, there are a lot of factors in play, and in most of the big consulting companies, the evaluation is not relative. So it's not out of these two, I will hire one. Especially at associate level, analyst level, companies are profitable enough to have a bench if both the candidates are really, really impressive. Yeah? So in this case, a lot of consulting companies would hire both. They have an absolute criteria than relative criteria. At the same time, whether it's a partner's preference, absolutely. Partner is the king. Yeah? He is the P&L holder. He holds the budget. So basically, it's the partner who decides. So that's why we always say, don't compare your preparation with others. It's not like you versus your friend or you versus someone else. Yeah, it's you versus the competency that is required to get into these consulting companies. If you go above that, then normally, that relative competition doesn't matter.
All right, perfect. So I think that we came up to the conclusion. I want to remind you that we have our webinars on the weekly basis. So next Wednesday, we are going to handle a different type of the case, which is given at MBB. Today, we only had profitability. Next week, we'll be having a different type. So feel free to register yourself for the upcoming webinar for the next Wednesday. And in the meantime, take a conversation with Alessa to find out what's your specific situation, where do you need help, and how to tackle it. It was my pleasure, and I want to thank the entire team for preparing and hosting this webinar. And thank you very much to every one of you for participating. It has been very great to see you all here, and please stay safe, stay healthy, and take care. All the very best.
Thank you guys for joining. See you next week.